Hello there. If you're like me and you like Gundam, then you would have thought of piloting one of those giant death machines yourself. But you, me, and our grandmothers would know very well that we are just gonna die in the first episode due to a random explosion and just be written off as collateral damage. Unless you're a space psychic, have massive plot armor, or just God himself, you're just pretty much gambling your whole life in the Gundam universe. Especially when you're piloting a grunt suit, then you're just target practice for the main characters. However though, there is a slight chance when the plot requires you to be someone important. Let's say in a side story maybe, where the plot usually emphasizes grunts like yourself, which increases your lifespan significantly. So I thought, why not I dedicate this project for those grunts, like you and me, if we were ever in Gundam universe. First, for the base, I used 3 pieces of cardboard of similar size to form the structure. I tried gluing strips of cardboard at the sides to thicken it up, as I thought it would make the cardboard easier to be glued to one another. Yeah, it didn't work. So I resorted to the next best thing, tape. I know using tape isn't the most professional of methods because it leaves a very obvious mark on your project and it isn't as secure as glue, so I just use a bit of it. Just a bit. Now if you build mono kits as well, you're gonna be left with a lot of runners. And since I paid not for the kit but for the runners as well, I decided to utilize them in this project. Okay, not that many. 3 will do. I cut off parts based on the rough estimate of the area of the cardboard and marked the necessary points that can be glued down later. I then marked all the other protruding stubs in order to find suitable places to glue on. The excess runners are then cut into smaller pieces, just like my heart. And then glued back on the cardboard to create some visual noise. I repeat the process on the other side, and while I was waiting for the glue to dry, I glued multiple pieces of rough cardboard to create some volume before putting on the cleaner, better looking cardboard to make it seem as if they are raised plates. Now that looks good. Don't you think so, Chef One?
Not bad.
Do it again on the other part as well and fill up the corrugated gaps with putty so that it doesn't look as cardboardy. At this point I forgot to film this, but I did use this thinner cardboard on the plates itself to make it seem as if there's panel lines there. I did some painting and weathering on the base before introducing you guys to our main character, the NEMO. The NEMO is from the Zeta Gundam, Double Zeta Gundam. I didn't watch those, I'm sorry, I'm currently watching Turning Gundam and Onichichi. Now, if your first impression of this build is that I did a bad job, you're completely right. It's my first time scribing and I should have bought some scribing tape to guide me. I also didn't do any detailing on the shield as I got scared of messing it up, so I apologize if it doesn't meet your standards. But at least I stay true to my channel name. To make up for the lack of details, I added heavy weathering to the shield. Using a soldering iron, I drew the tip across the shield to simulate a beam sabers or a hit axe slash without putting much pressure to avoid breaking the shield in half. Then a few bullet holes as well. Next, the edges of the armor parts are cut, and pretty much the edges of every other part of the model where you expect to sustain some kind of chipping or damage as well. I then paint the kit with spray paint, specifically spray paint from Mr. DIY. I am not sponsored, but please, I don't mind. It's kind of scuffed, but then again, I am low effort. I like to use red to highlight the smaller details like my dick, as it contrasts the blue, white and grey and just makes the details pop like how you pop your sister's chest and stand out while at the same time bringing those colors together. Since this piece of plastic can't actually fly, I'll need to build a stand for it to stand on. I got a few blocks from Daiso again, not sponsored, but please, I'll need to pay for my therapy. I glued the blocks and nailed them together and added some runners to make a frame for the smoke effect. I use this MDF board from Daiso to form a more sturdy base for my base so that the wooden stand can stand on. Of course, you must absolutely use a pair of pliers to push the nails in, no hammer required.
This is my kingdom come. This
Good enough. Then come the lights, which are just SMDs that are hot glued to a metal wire. Simple but effective. Now this is the part of the project where I wish that I had bought a Dremel tool. I would rather drill myself in the bum than to continue drilling this crap. Unfortunately, my agent genes tell me that I could save a lot more money if I don't make my life simpler. Was it worth a few centimeters squares of dead skin cells? Yeah. The nails are then fitted into the foot of the model. I use putty to make it secure, but I think glue will just work just fine. I did the same thing for the joint that connects the foot to the shin. Then we move on to my favorite part of the build, the weathering. The weathering technique I use is not much of a technique, to be honest. I would recommend just watching other channels if you really want to know how weathering works, but this is how I do it. I use Reeves black acrylic and just dilute it just a tiny bit, dab the paint on to the edges and corners, emphasizing the corners because that's where the paint usually chips off first. Slightly dilute some black paint and add it onto the sponge. The sponge must be borderline dry before being dabbed onto the plastic. I then use the same technique on the blue parts, but now I wash the parts first before applying gunmetal instead of black. This is to make the parts seem dusty and the paint chipping to seem obvious as well. The insides of the visors are also painted gunmetal so that it looks better up close. And finally, the smoke effect using some cotton. I use some cheap hairsprays to shape the cotton. This not only helped make a convincing structure of an explosion, but it also earned me a scolding from my mom because it smelled like crap the whole day. Now after assembling all the parts together, it's time for the slideshow.